We are live to absolutely nobody, but hey, welcome back to the second episode of Who's Good again on YouTube. This is the second football related, or rather, like actual football related episode that we've done in the last week or so. I have a guest with me this time, so let's before we start off the episode, I'd like to introduce Vishnu, who is joining us for the very first time. We were really on the lookout for somebody who loved to talk Arsenal, and because the four of us support such different clubs, it made no sense for us to keep banning about Arsenal without having someone who is on that side of the fence and who is going through the shit that the club are putting him through. So, Vishnu, welcome on to the
Thanks
show.
for having me.
So, for those of you listening to this on Spotify, because this will be on Spotify as well as Apple and Google Podcasts in the next few days, we do the show live on YouTube. We will then take it to Spotify on the next day, on basically on the audio streaming platforms the next day, and from then on, you can share it with your circles and whatnot. So, I guess there's only one place for us to start with. What I've discussed with you guys is that I kind of want to talk about a big result from possibly the biggest game of the weekend so far. It was Spurs versus Man City, a game which many predicted Man City to wipe the floor with Spurs. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case for City because they looked really undercooked. I'd let either of you start as to what you thought of that game. What does it mean for City season, or is it just like a minor blip given the grand scheme of things?
So I watched the first 20 minutes, and then I was driving, so I had to turn it off, and then I watched like the last 20 minutes. I honestly didn't watch the Son goal. I didn't have time today to go back and watch the highlights. But from what I watched in the first 20 minutes, I think the first 15 minutes, City was scintillating. They were like Spurs couldn't get the ball off them. Uh, the movement, the speed of passing, all of that was so good. Spurs were just unable to handle it. That's all I saw. And in the last 20, they looked fatigued. They were out of it. Like, especially the last 10 minutes, I don't remember City having one chance. I think they had one shot from 30, 35 yards, and that's all that I can remember. I think Spurs pretty much had the ball in the City third of the last entirety of the last 10. So in between, I don't know what happened. I can't comment on that, but just from the evidence of the first 15 minutes, I don't. This is just a minor blip in City's race to the title this season. And let's not forget they didn't have literally five of their starters playing yesterday. I think Kyle Walker is a starter. KDB is a starter. Um Rodri is a starter that wasn't playing. Stones is yet to be back, and there was one more person who was missing, who would be their starter. Uh,
I think Jesus
Foden.
now Foden. Yeah,
Foden.
Foden's
Yeah,
out for
Foden.
a while. Yeah.
So they literally didn't have half their side. The moment these five get back into the team, City are just going to go on that insane runs that they go on. But having said that, I think this season, if City lose maybe one or two more games in the next 7 or 8 games, it's going to be so much more harder this season than last season. Only because the competition is so much tougher with Chelsea, Liverpool, United doing so well in the opening game. I mean, it's just one game. Let's not get too ahead of ourselves. It's one game for these three winning and one game of City losing. I mean, we can talk about more of this maybe in 4 or 5 game weeks time. But for now, I just think it's a minor blip. And Nuno's always had, for some reason, he's always had Pep's number one, and City have failed to score at Spurs for what is it now? 3 or 4 years now. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I mean, three. They've lost their last 4 games there or something.
Yeah, they've lost the last 4 games there. So, but they've failed to score in the last 2 or 3 games there. So that's saying something about the bogey team or the bogey ground that they have. Like, uh, I think for us it's Burnley for whatever reason. So I guess for City it's Spurs.
Hmm.
Yeah, but if you see,
No, go
can
on,
I
Vishnu.
jump in?
Sorry.
Yeah, but if
Yeah,
you
yeah,
look
go
at the
ahead.
context, right? See, especially this season with a lot of teams with the COVID and the preseason turmoil that City had, specifically with like preseason games being cancelled, and there's a different thing practicing at the training ground, but there's a different thing getting like match practice. So if you see City's preseason being really, in turmoil, even though the headlines were Grealish 100 million, right? But the context is they didn't really have a proper preseason. And secondly, in terms of a couple of comments already been made about City getting away without a striker last season, that's because they
Yeah.
carried on the momentum post Christmas, right? But this is a season, like Sid, you rightly said, where teams have like strengthened even more. They're going for particular players like Lukaku at Chelsea, and a couple of other players like Villa not in the race, but they're going like specific teams are targeting specific players with a plan. Whereas City are still relying on the whole Kane situation, which is another distraction. So
Yeah.
if City this season go like, let's say, 6 points behind with like even after 10 games, it's going to be really hard for them to come back. And again on Walker, like he was the biggest miss I felt, because he's the kind of guy who stops the counterattacks from his side, which makes up for the entire defense. Whereas if you watch the game again, you'll see that Mendy in the second half completely capitulated on that side, and most of Spurs attacks were going down that side of the pitch. Like Mendy is the weakest link in that City defense
Yeah.
at the moment.
I completely
And
agree.
he's not
I
started.
completely-
He's not started enough as well over the last couple of seasons. Like he's won all these trophies. He's winning every season trophy after trophy. But what has he done on the pitch? Right? He's not done much, and that again like
Vishnu,
completely came to the fore in the game against
I love
Spurs.
that point you're making about Mendy, because he's costed City 52 million. Why doesn't anybody talk about that? Like, he is 52 million for a left back who's played a handful of games, and like you
Exactly.
rightly said, he's won the World Cup, he's won 3 league titles. For what? I mean, I don't
It's
even
like
think he's played.
Bosinga. It's like Bosinga winning the Champions League with Chelsea back in 2011 or 2012. Like it's similar to that.
But Bosinga was better than that. Like honestly, I would.
I'm just
He
saying
had
it's,
some
it's
sort of.
banter, whatever. But I'm saying I'm just going for a bit of banter there. But
But
I'm just saying
but
it's
but
a similar sort of
but
situation with him there.
seriously, has he played 52? Has he earned 1 million per game? Like, has he played 52 games for City? I mean, that's really a question that I'd love for Akshay, the stats guy, to find out if he's actually played 52 games for City. He's costed them 52 million. And when Tony Marshall comes, I mean, they literally wrote a song for 50 million.
But
Sorry,
I don't know
sorry
that.
guys, I was a little tied up, missed the last few sentences. I heard my
I
name
said,
in the midst of
can
all
you
this.
find out how many games Mendy has played for City in total?
Akshay's mic is really sensitive. I'm just going to keep muting him on and off because I don't know what it is. So last week's episode, Vishnu, on last week's episode, Akshay was somewhere in Shimla and he had an AC that sounded like a pressure cooker. It was horrible to get around. There was no
One
way
of
to
the
get
old
around
ones.
it. Yeah, it was just one of those really old ones. Yeah. So, but now I don't know what the issue today is. So we have Shreyas in the chat who's pretty adamant. He wants us to talk about Kane. So you know what? I'll put this point up. He says Kane should leave and not ruin Spurs' momentum, and any news on Alba. Why can I'm hearing myself? Okay. And any news on Alba Laka in exchange for Coutinho and fuck Kroenke? Okay. We'll get to Arsenal. I promise we'll get to Arsenal in a bit. But for now, let's talk about. I'm going to talk about the game yesterday. So City looked good at the start. They really looked good. Grealish was making those runs he's so famous for. And this is my big gripe with him moving to City, is that he's a maverick at the end of the day, right? He tends to he'll pick the ball up on the halfway line and he'll start making those runs into the box, and he takes defenders with him. He attracts a lot of fouls. I feel. Oh shit! Are people dropping off?
No, go on.
Oh,
We can hear you.
I apologize if
Abin.
We can hear you, dude.
Yeah, we
Are we?
can hear you. Go on.
Yeah.
Yeah, do continue.
No. No, because suddenly, like everyone just dropped off the call for a second. Okay, anyway, I feel with Grealish, I think that will get driven, that will get like taken out of him, given Pep's insistence on people following the exact system, the exact position he wants them to be in. So that's a little sad. But yeah, for the most part, I completely agree with you guys. I agree that City didn't have a preseason. They gassed out pretty early. But even in the early stages of that game, when the ball was being turned over, Spurs were doing what they'd basically trained for that entire for that particular game. Was they would catch them in transition on the turnover and try to hit them on the counter attack. He went with Bergwijn and Lucas and Son, who are probably one of the three of the more faster players in the Premier League. So it was very evident as to what Nuno was doing, and he's done this with Wolves. Like Wolves, he's had a pretty insane record of handling Pep's teams in the past. So there was no surprise as to what he would try to do to Pep, and you could see it coming. Like initially, the ball would the play would break down on the edge of the D. It would be a misplaced pass more often than not from Bergwijn. Son would make the wrong decision. Ali would not get there in on time to make the pass, or he would not make himself available. Eventually, in the second half, when City came out and when Spurs came out, I felt Spurs had been gotten to at halftime. Nuno was like, what the hell are you guys doing? Make sure you get to the ball, make the right decisions, get it to Son. And when Son got the ball at the edge of the box, he curls one beautifully into the bottom corner. I don't know, is it just me or does Ruben Diaz
He had a chance before that as well. He had a chance before that as well, Son, which was supposed to be a corner, but ref didn't give it.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, in the first half, right?
It was supposed, but you see, for City, the biggest chance was Mahrez. Mm-hmm. Easy chance in front of goal, 6 yards out, and he misses that, right? And goals win you games. I felt if City had scored then, the wins would have completely, carried them at least for a draw. Like those are fine margins in these type of games, especially yesterday. If you see, there are not many clear-cut chances. It was like someone has to take a chance like Son did or Mahrez missed. It was going to be a game like that. It was really tight.
Yeah, I agreed. And then the moment that one goal went in, I was like, okay, now I expect. This game is going to play out exactly how you think it's going to play out, because City have no focal point. They're playing Ferran Torres as a number 9, or at least in the striker position. He had possibly the best chance in that half, where I think he got to the ball a little late, or rather it was just a little behind him, and he miscontrolled it with his wrong foot. A ball that comes in, it's off a free kick which goes to Cancelo, and Cancelo crosses it into the box, and Torres. I thought it was heading into the back of the net from the angles that they presented to us, but unfortunately, for City rather, his touch was pretty bad. But yeah, now where does this leave City with the whole Kane deal? Because right now, Kane, as we all know, was dropped from the squad. He came back in on Thursday. There's a huge debate as to who was in the right. Did he actually skip training, or was it just what he always intended to be? I think it's the former, because right now he's just trying to save face, saying I was always intended to come back on the Thursday. Yeah, because you wanted to miss the first game of the season, the biggest game, one of the biggest games of Spurs seasons, because that's just how it is, right?
I think he was the only English player to either not start or not be on the bench. Only English player who went to the Euros who neither didn't start nor was on the bench in the opening day team sheets across the 20 Premier League clubs.
Apart from Rashford, who is, of course...
he's
in surgery.
He's not eligible. I'm not counting him. I'm saying apart from him, like those who are eligible and
correct.
could have
you're
started.
Absolutely right. Yeah.
Okay, so I have a question now. Does he go at the end of the window, or is he staying? I'll start with Vishnu. I'll go with you, and then I'll move on to Tushar, Akshay, and then Sid.
It's a tricky one, I think, because he's 28. He's going to be 29 next year, and he'll still have 3 years left on the contract. I feel it's going to be a case of him maybe going next season, most likely, only because it's Levy. Only because it's Levy, and he's going to dig his heels in, and he's going to stay. And it's going to be a case of him doing RVP. He's probably going to have just enough time maybe to win one league title with City, which I think he's eventually going to go. I mean, there's no doubt about it. But I think he'll go next
I
season
agree.
because he's been at Spurs since he was a kid. After he left Arsenal, obviously, that's the last trophy celebration he's ever seen in his life. So, but it is what it is. I think he goes next season. He's a phenomenal player, obviously, but he should go. You know, players like him deserve to win titles. I mean, he's a joy to watch, no matter what team he plays for, and it's like a RVP situation. Deserves to win the title at some point.
Akshay.
Yeah, I think he does stay at Spurs. I think Nuno made a statement that he's going to continue as a Tottenham player about 3 to 4 days ago. So I think he's just, I guess, personal reasons must have kept him out of training and to miss the first game of the season. But I think he'll stay back at Spurs and hopefully uh, win at least a trophy, be it whichever trophy he's competing for.
Conference League.
Oh yeah, Conference League. That's right.
I mean, you do forget Nuno took Wolves to the Europa semi-finals where, like, they got beaten off in a one-off game. So you don't know what could happen in the Conference League.
Yeah, but Nuno's a promising manager, and I'm sure he'll do good for the team.
I mean, he gets a lot of slander, which I don't think is fully deserved.
Style of football. That's because of a style of football.
Even then, I mean, like before the Jimenez injury derailed his season. The season before that, Wolves were fun to watch because they were obviously, they had this insane counter-attacking style, which made them quite enjoyable to watch. But I guess like he further retracted into his shell after Jimenez's injury last year, and they just got really boring. The lack of crowds didn't help. Molyneux, I think, plays a big a part in Wolves' home form. At least the crowd can be very loud.
I'm not complaining. That's literally the mantra that United plays. So counter-attacking football. So
I mean, I wouldn't technically say that, but okay, we'll get to United in a bit. But
anyway,
I mean, they're not.
Speaking of Kane, I'll tell you what. Let's just put a number. I think if it's 150, if City come back with a bit of 150 in the last week of transfer window, Kane leaves. Because let's face it, Levy is not going to turn down 150 million
for a 28-year-old.
For a 28-year-old. I mean, as much as a shrewd businessman Levy is, and as much as he wants, like Vishnu said, wants to dig in his heels, he's not turning down 150 million for Kane because I don't see another Kane coming out of Spurs anytime soon. And to get that sort of money, he can reinvest it. He can pay back some of the stadium debt. He can reinvest it in the squad. Because right now, let's face it, Spurs are rebuilding. Whether Kane stays or not, Spurs are rebuilding. They have to rebuild it. Because their backline was aging. He's brought in new folks, but he'll have to rebuild in some way or the other. I know Tanganga had a brilliant game yesterday. I think he was the man of the match as well. So
he's brave. He's brave to start both Tanganga and Skip both together yesterday.
Exactly.
He threw them in the deep end and they came out like unscathed. Luckily, that was a big call.
Honestly, Tanganga came out with flying colors. He was brilliant yesterday. For whatever little bit of the game that I watched, brilliant. But that's why it's a rebuilding for Spurs. And see, the thing is, maybe next year he gets only 50 million for Kane. So
yeah, that's the fear, right? Like that's the point
exactly.
I want to make. Because right now there's,
if Grealish is 100, Kane's 150. I don't think there's any argument about it. He is probably the second best striker in the world after Lewandowski. There's no arguments there. Like I'm saying out and out center forward. Like I think he's the second best because he can drop in deep. He can make plays from deep as well, collect the ball closer to midfield and then have runners on either side, which is what Son and Mora were doing often for Spurs. He can do that as well. So he is a complete striker and 150 million is completely justified. And if City come out with that sort of crazy valuation and say here's 150, I think Kane leaves. Levy takes the deal, Kane leaves. If not, because the only thing is next year 2-year contract, he's 29 going to turn 30. I don't think that anybody's going to pay 150. I don't even think anybody's going to pay a 3-figure sum he might probably go for like 70, 80 tops, and losing 70 million. That's literally one really, really good player that you can buy. So in
But
this
let's flip it
inflated
around,
market,
right? Like if you see Spurs history, right, when Bale left for massive amounts of money, right, and Lamela, incidentally, is the last player to leave off that entire 7 or 8 players that they bought at the time, right? So he surely has to learn lessons from how to rebuild as well. So does he go
Yeah,
for
I think
that Kane
because
money, or does he have a different solution to rebuilding Spurs? Because they, as
but
you've
you know
seen with
what?
Leicester and all these teams, like I'm sure there are different ways to build sides apart from taking the big money and just going all out like they did after Bale left.
Listen, you cannot. There is no quick fix. Like you cannot replace. So let me put it this way: if they sell a Kane, they can't buy another Kane because another Kane is not coming to Spurs. Let's face that. They're not in the Champions League. They are rebuilding, and nobody who is of the same ilk as Kane is going to come to Spurs. They will have to build it in another way. Either promote their youth or get in half decent players and try to put them in a system that will work, and then challenge for, for initially top four, and then from there maybe challenge for the title. Because with 150 million, like you said, Lamela is the only. I think they bought about 7 or 8 players from Bale money, and all of them were flops. It was the same with United when they sold Ronaldo. They got a bunch of bad players. It was the same with, I think, Barcelona when they sold Neymar and got a bunch of bad players.
Yeah, so we see
It,
trends there all across the
yeah,
park, right? So
it's everywhere. It's in every team. Like you said, it's you can't replace you. There cannot not be another Kane in from Spurs. I mean, obviously, it's going to take years, decades, maybe.
but that's why they stick on to him. I mean, he's the club man. He's been there since he was a kid, and why would they want to let him go? Like, right? It's
But
like
that's the thing. Yeah, why would they let him go? I completely agree with you.
it's
Contractually, he
like
has
another
to stay
parallel
there
I
for
like to
another
draw
3 years.
is with, let's say, Matt Letizia back in the day at Southampton, right? And
Hmm.
and let's say the one club guys, right? But that generation's gone. It's all about the wages now. It's all about quick titles, quick everything. So even time has changed. So I
Hmm.
guess it's a 50-50. We really can't predict how it's exactly going to go. But if he's a loyal guy and he's like a Matt Letizia and he wants to stay and see out his career and maybe win a title or two, a few cups. I mean, that's another thing. We really don't know.
It
There are
was
too
the
many
same with
like
Shearer. He moved
variables
from
in play here.
Blackburn to Newcastle only because, I mean, United were in for him. He knew that very well, but he moved to Newcastle because he's a Newcastle. He's a Magpie through and through. Yeah, and the only reason he moved to Newcastle was because he had won a title with Blackburn.
Exactly. Different situation again.
Yeah, but
No, I
So
think.
Shreyas has. I think if you can highlight the point that Shreyas just made, he says the
Mhm.
reason why he is adamant is that Levy doesn't want to sell a player to the EPL team, which we all know he hates selling to
Mhm.
EPL teams. And he says if it's a non-EPL team who's asking for 100 mil for Kane, then by now he would have been sold. Yeah, I think that's true, but that's the case with every English team, right? Like when we bought Rio from Leeds, he was the then West Ham, no Leeds. Which one was it? West
Leeds.
Ham,
Leeds,
Leeds.
Leeds.
So he was the then most expensive signing. So obviously you do want to strengthen your direct rival. I know Man City, quote unquote, are not Spurs' direct rival, but in a way he sees them as their direct rival. So obviously he's not going to. He might as well get the most out of that deal. So
Hmm. So my thing, and I largely agree with the both of you. But Tushar, do you want to make a point? I'll make it after that.
Yeah, I think I agree with Sid that if 150 million comes on the table, then Kane's gone.
Hmm.
I don't think Levy will wait till deadline day though, because Levy will probably look for replacements if he's
Hmm.
selling him. So I'm guessing within this week or two. I mean, within this week, basically, Man City have to make that 150 million bid.
Hmm.
And the other thing about Pep is every time he loses a game, he goes and does angry shopping. So that might happen.
Huh.
Uh, yeah, and I think Kane did what he did because he's asked Levy, he's got that gentleman's agreement. He went to the next player, did that golf interview, all that to say that, dude, I'm going. I want to go. Let me go. Okay. And the guy's not letting him go. So he had to pull all this. I'm not coming to training. I mean, we've seen players pull way worse things, but Koto just didn't show up for training and said, "You either sell me or fuck you," basically, right? So we
Yeah,
sold him.
that's a power move. That's a power move that
that's
most people do.
the power move that you pull, right?
Yeah.
Except it didn't work out for Kane because his idiot of a brother made him sign a 6-year contract. Okay, like who signs a 6-year contract?
It's a lucrative contract. Obviously, he's gonna sign it, right?
Yeah, but
you take a 4-year or a 3-year, dude. Who takes a 6-year? Like, if you make a brother negotiate, maybe that's not the best thing for you.
It is the timing as well, right?
I
They
think
just made the
George has-
final of the Champions League and stuff, so timing also has a lot to do with when he committed to that contract again.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand. Your it being like an emotional thing, right? But it's 20. Let's go back to 2018. It's 2018, and you have a gentleman's agreement situation in your contract. Why? It's very simply, if these clubs come for me and if they pay a certain figure above 110 or 115 million, I can go. If that was included in the contract,
just put a release clause, dude. How hard is it?
Yeah, fine.
Put
a release
clause.
It was there in.
See, that's a great point.
It was there in
because
Grealish's
that's a
contract.
perfect point in terms of
Vishnu, make your point. Vishnu, you go first, and then you go after. Yeah.
No, so that's a great parallel because if you look at Grealish's signing, right?
Exactly.
So they had a 100 million clause specifically in the contract. It said if
Yeah.
any team comes with exactly 100 million or more, you're off. And it also had a gentleman's agreement.
It was not any team. It was any team that was in the Champions League.
Champions
if they were
League,
in the Champions League, came and they paid exactly 100
Right.
mil, I can leave. And they had it in the clause, yeah.
Exactly. And he had a gentleman's agreement in place as well. Whereas Kane, we know in today's times there's nothing like a gentleman's agreement unless it's in the contract, right?
Exactly.
I mean, he has a gentleman's agreement with Levy. It's like having a gentleman's agreement with the devil, dude. Like, why would you do that?
Exactly.
But I don't know. I think it's just like I honestly see him going at the end of the window. I think City will push that extra 15 million. See, I still maintain that this is a really bad transfer for City because I don't think they've ever gone for somebody over the age of 28. Correct me if I'm wrong. Like they've usually taken a player, at least under the Pep regime.
Robinho.
Pep. Yeah, the Pep regime. No. Yeah, it's usually somebody the 24, the 26 range who he can mold, who will listen to him. I'm not saying Kane won't listen to him. I think obviously Kane is going there to be one of the best players. But I feel that it's a bit of a Van Persie transfer because I feel as soon as I think Pep has maybe 2 titles left in him, he's waiting. Once the Champions League is done, in my opinion, Pep is out. And then you are stuck with a huge number of players who are going to be on massive wages. I don't think wages or money is going to be a problem, but shifting them out is going to become an issue. Even though I kind of think that Kane may have longevity to his career because he's not pace reliant as, let's say, a Martinez or even a Rashford up to a certain extent.
He reminds me a lot of Lewandowski, like longevity-wise, maybe.
But he's injury prone. I mean, Lewandowski isn't as injury prone as Kane is, and that's for me. It's a strange transfer. It's good from a United perspective because it leaves the door wide open for Haaland next season. But we'll get to that next year in a bit. So yeah, Spurs come out winners. I mean, we've been on Spurs for nearly half an hour, so I think we should quickly move on. Let's talk about, in my opinion, the most exciting game of the weekend so far. Purely from an entertainment perspective, which was Newcastle versus West Ham. We'll spend a couple of minutes on it because it was a really fun game to watch. There were FPL interests in it, but we'll speak about that at the end of this episode because some of us have had some very hard FPL weekends. Some of us have had glorious weekends, as you'd expect. But in terms of Newcastle and West Ham, there's only one place to start, I guess, or one person to start with. Dodi, talk to us about Newcastle. Bro.
I mean, apparently Steve Bruce spent the preseason writing novels and shit. So maybe training took a little bit of a backseat. Yeah. He was writing about Bosnian killers and something and all. He's going to release his novel in like 4 or 5 months.
Oh, God.
But I mean, they played well, dude. Like they played with heart and stuff, Newcastle. I liked it. It was a really fun game. Again, Steve Bruce has no idea on tactics. I don't think they set up tactically right for West Ham. I got found out a bunch of times. I mean, Wilson scored. I think that was good. I mean, that was a good goal.
Mm-hmm. And then Murphy also scored, I think,
Yeah,
after like
that was an
8
ASM
minutes.
masterclass with
Yes,
his
and
feet over
Ali
there.
Saint Maximum. Yeah,
Yeah, he did really good to get out of the traffic and put it in across for Wilson.
yeah.
But there was a penalty decision in that game. Now, was that an act? So, for those of you who watched it, was that an actual pen? You think that was the right decision? Because I've heard arguments being made for both sides.
There's some VAR thing, right, that says that soft pen shouldn't be given this season or something. Oh, by the
Yeah.
way, I know I'm going back to that game, but Raheem Sterling not getting those fouls was very cathartic, dude. Like he kept complaining like 8 times in that game, and the refs didn't give him anything, and I loved it. Like I loved the hell out of it. Yeah. No, but there's some VAR thing that says this season they can't give those soft pens.
They've
So-
been
He's a
they've
threshold
hardlined.
in terms of
Yeah.
contact and
Yeah.
I
So-
honestly think this week the refereeing was brilliant. Like I really, as a fan who's been watching football for over 20 years now, loved most. I think all the games this weekend, whichever ones I watched, there was. I loved it, dude. They were not whistling for every bloody tackle. Like it's a fucking contact. I'm sorry for cursing,
It's a
but
proper contact sport. Yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
contact sport. Obviously, people are going to touch each other. They're going to fall. It's going to happen. I play football every weekend. I play, and I know how it is. You cannot get the ball off the person without making slight contact. It happens, and it is frustrating every time the referee puts the whistle to his mouth just because he slightly touched his leg and that guy went over. Man, it was so good watching it. It really felt like watching proper football, like football back in the day when Kino and Vieira, when these guys were going in with tackles and coming out. It really felt good.
There were a
watching
lot
it.
of the last 20 minutes of that game there was some heavy tackles flying in. It was good to watch. It's been a while.
It was
chaotic
really
end
good to
of the
watch.
game.
It
Yeah.
was really
Yeah.
good to watch.
Dude, honestly,
Very
I went
exciting.
for like a championship game. It felt like that, dude. Like I went for like a Leeds championship game where everyone's just tackling and kicking the shit out of everybody. And this Newcastle game felt like that.
But didn't it feel good just watching it?
Yeah, it did.
I
It
mean,
did. It did. But
there were
I'm
no
just like,
whistles.
how
That
will
was the best part.
I mean, it's great, but I'm just like, how will a team without bench strength last with this kind of refereeing? Like that's something you have to look at.
Also, yeah, I want to talk about because I thought West Ham were really good yesterday. I think they're also they're turning out to be a very fun team to watch. They seem to have goal threats from midfield as well as they have a slightly hamstrung striker in Antonio who can be amazing on his day or he can be complete ass, as a lot of people found out. Now, I want with the European schedule because they're in the Europa League. I do you think they have as good a season as they did last year?
I don't think so. I think
To
they'll-
West Ham,
I
no.
think they'll be overplayed, and I don't think they'll be able to last the complete season without squad rotation, which I think they lack
Yeah.
right now.
I think nothing kills a team like Thursday night football, dude. Like that just
That's all-
absolutely kills you. Yeah, and if you don't have bench strength, you're screwed.
I just think that they have. I just think if a couple of more signings in the midfield area, maybe Lingard going back, and maybe another player from maybe a lesser team. I think they finish. They finish in the top. They definitely finish in the top 10. I think they could again try to make that push, maybe for the Conference League.
Also, have you seen enough? I'm sorry. Does anyone have any points to make? I want to talk about Newcastle for like a hot minute.
No, you can go
Newcastle,
ahead.
I mean, about Steve Bruce especially, I think it's his 43rd season as player and manager involved at the top level. That's crazy. What's
Yeah,
interesting
wow.
is the first thing he said in his pre-match presser was like, if I don't love it anymore, it's time to quit, right? He still has that enthusiasm. And as you saw, if the strikers are firing, Newcastle are going to stay up. But it's at some point they're going to go down. Is it going to be this season?
It's dependent on those two people. It's dependent on
Yeah.
ASM and Wilson. If these two stop performing, they're just going down. There's no two
Yeah.
ways about it.
I think from what I saw yesterday, I believe they have the firepower to stay up, but they have to keep the two strikers fit. I think Alan Saint Maximan is integral to what they do. Callum Wilson is also integral to what they do, and Ryan Fraser kind of needs to like get a grip with things and try and discover some of his old form, because they need it. And I don't think they're getting any investment. It's been a very slow summer, given the fact that Ashley is desperately trying to sell the club. He doesn't want to put any money into it. If they make it through this season, and if the acquisition happens, I think this is their last chance, right? At the acquisition, you get a one and done or something along those lines, is what I heard on that Overlap podcast that Gary Neville, Keane, and Jimmy Carragher did.
So you can take over only in one window. There can't be successive windows where you can take over a club. It has to be done over one summer or one window. So that's how. So because of that, there's a struggle. So that's the whole problem that is.
I mean, the Premier League is not even approving it, right? And Newcastle's basically suing the Premier League and the FA at the same time to allow the Middle East guys to buy them. Yeah.
Okay, I see. There seems to be a lot of Arsenal chat happening in the comments.
Guys, 1 second. Yeah, I see. I think Shreyas and Ajay. I think that there's been a lot of Arsenal chat. Why don't we segue into Arsenal and then we can talk about the three other.
Are we talking about Arsenal?
Yeah.
Yes, let's do it.
Let's do it.
I guess it's time to. I prepared a little something for us for this video. It's called. Okay, we're back. so okay, Vishnu, I'm so sorry. So as I mentioned to you at the top of this episode, we have a whole "Where will Arsenal finish" segment for this podcast.
For every podcast.
For every podcast.
Yeah, for every podcast.
When they got pulled out to play Brentford, I was one of the few people that said, you know what, this is a game they could lose. And not because of Arsenal's frailties, because Brentford are genuinely very good. They have one of their sporting directors is this dude called Bloom, who invented some sort of a gambling tool, which basically does predictions of odds or something along those lines. And it somehow found a fit in football. So essentially, Brentford are the best example of a Moneyball team in soccer, right? Or football. I can't believe I said soccer. Oh my god, so sorry. Anyway,
Bro, you're an American man.
I'm sorry. I'm in Bangalore. How can I be American?
Honestly,
you're not there yet.
The best example is Midtjylland, because they made it to the Europa League's quarterfinals through the Moneyball.
But before all of that, because our resident, our guest Arsenal fan, Vishnu, give us your thoughts on what's happening, because what is happening?
Mind me if I go a little philosophical. Anyone who's read Hornby's book, Fever Pitch? So
Fever Pitch, yes.
Where he says, football has come to represent too much to me over the years, ad verbatim. And I don't know if life's shit because Arsenal are shit or the other way around, right? It's been like that since we won the title in 2004, and it's continuing down that path, right? But if you look at parallels, just opposites between Arsenal and Brentford, right? So if you look at the interviews that the sporting director made, so one of the points is a transfer doesn't happen unless a player goes through 4 approvals: the owner, 2 sporting directors, the manager, and the backroom staff, right? And if you look at Arsenal, Edu's on holiday at the crunch time of a transfer window.
What is that about?
He's on holiday. I don't know what he's doing, but you can see the polar opposites of transfer strategy right there. Like, this is probably the season I've been least enthusiastic over Arsenal season. But when the game comes around, But it's a shambles. Like, I put it this way: you either have to have decent players and a stellar manager to balance the things, or the other way around. You can't be like Arsenal, where you throw in the youngsters and then they get berated after 90 minutes. And I don't blame them. It keeps going back to Wenger, right? If you do a deep analysis, he had similar profile of players, but he was a once in a lifetime manager, right? But right now, if you see, we don't have a once in a lifetime manager, or we don't have the players or a spine, and spending 50 million on Ben White, right? It's all over the place. Like I actually am not surprised Arsenal lost to Brentford.
Vishnu,
Powerful team. They
can
came
I
with a
ask you a
game
question?
plan. Perfect from Brentford.
Can I ask you a question? Do you think Arteta is the right man for this job? I mean,
I just
let's say if you think he's the right man for the job, because the reason I'm asking you is because if Arsenal have to shell out the kind of money that they're going to have to shell out to rebuild that squad, what is it does it make it their worth their while to shell out a lot of money because they believe in Arteta? Do you believe in Arteta?
I think my answer just summed it up. Like he's not a top manager. Like if you look at even let's say other Premier League clubs, when let's say after Ferguson left, they tried to get in. What's the first thing they did? Got an experienced man in just to shore up things at the club, just to create an identity, just to keep things stable for a bit, and then whatever happened after that happened. But there is no strategy, there is no game plan, there is no philosophy. Like we Arsenal fans, most of them keep living in the past. Oh, Wenger did this, Wenger did that. That's gone. Like no one like you said in the overlap, like no one has a divine right to win anything. But we still think we are Arsenal and we deserve to win. But it's not like that in sport and in life, right? It's you got to
Yeah.
have a game plan. You got to be prepared. You got to have a good preseason, have a game plan in place. But you don't expect to win at even Brentford without any of these things happening.
See, so
So
Ajay Shetty is saying Arteta needs time. Do you agree with him?
We live in the modern world. Like we are not in the 90s when let's say George Graham was given time, or let's say a couple of other managers were given
Fergie,
time. We live in
Fergie.
2021. Like there's no time, right? In the current age, results is equal to money. It's where you finish, which competition you're in. That's what generates the revenue, right? And we
but
want to like
more
I'm wearing this because this is where we want to be, right? But we're miles off it.
yeah.
We're miles
No,
off it.
No.
look, I honestly look. I grew up initially like when I started when I could truly understand football. Arsenal were at the bloody top. Like I'm a United fan, but when I actually could understand really properly, like when I was 13, 14 years old, that's when Arsenal were winning. That was the invincible season. Then they won the
Yeah,
season
but
after
that's what I
that.
said. If you look at the parallels, you had David
But
Dean
look at
in,
the
you had Wenger
what
in.
y'all
You
but
look at
no.
their
Let me
transfer
say
strategist was in place. They had a
their profile
One
of
at a
players was completely different, right? Wenger had these powerful midfielder. He had Petit, he had Vieira, he had a few guile players. He had Perez, he had Lumberg, and he had your classic center forwards, and he had in Bergkamp and Henry. For whatever reason, he switched to more technically gifted players. He switched to a midfield of Cazorla and what's his name?
Fabregas, right?
Fabregas.
No.
And then he got in Rosicky. Then he got in Kleb. Uh,
Nasri.
and then Nasri. He completely changed the profile of a club from being a powerful club with real men like Vieira, Sol Campbell, Petit, Ashley Cole, all these guys who were
But
proper players.
honestly,
He
Sid,
a lot of
wasn't that
variables
completely
in
wasn't
there,
that?
man.
Hmm. I'm
Again,
sorry.
and
you
he
look at the stadium. You look at what type of financial Arsenal are days away from being a Leeds United. Literally, that is the
Yeah.
reality of Arsenal Football Club. They were days
I
away
that
from
is
going
true,
bankrupt.
and I
We don't
feel bad
realize that.
because trust me, I grew up at one point I respected Arsenal as a football club, and trust me, I have massive respect for Arsene Wenger, right? And it just like whenever I say top six, obviously Arsenal is included in the top six. I don't hate any club, maybe Liverpool to a small extent, but that's just because I'm a United fan. But apart from that, like I just want to understand, like, because look, even as a United fan, we haven't won anything for almost 10 years now. And by anything, I mean the league. And I think this is the closest we're coming to at least challenge for the title, apart from that one small Mourinho season. And we also went from manager to manager to manager. But now they've actually given Ole some time, some money, and another contract this year saying, okay, we'll give you another 3 years.
No,
But
that's all fine. But I
no,
mean,
but
right now
what I'm
the
trying to say was no. He said experienced manager. Ole was not an
Hmm.
experienced manager. He's got
No, I said
relegated.
my point was that once Wenger left, like a long-term manager like SAF, right? You got to show
Yeah.
things up. You went for a Unai, who statistically is never going to finish in the top four. He's never finished in the top four, has he? He
I
statistically
think
never
one
finished in the
one
top four.
season, one season. I
Maybe
think
one season. He's a
yeah.
cup guy.
Mm.
He's a cup run. He's a Europa League specialist. That's all well and good. That's Arsenal in the 90s and under George Graham, apart from the 89 91 win. We were a cup team, right? Unai Emery is a cup manager, bottom line. We needed to get someone who has experience of managing a club like ours, knows how to just settle things for 2 or 3 years, and then you get in Ole. Like Ole is not a result of a quick fix. He's a
No,
result
he's
of
not.
United first recruiting certain players. And why do you think Ole is so successful? Because he's got players around him. That's why I said you either have decent players around or you have a great manager in place. But Arsenal, you don't have both, right?
And
That's
the
the bottom line.
recruitment has to be right. I completely agree with you on that. Because at Moyes, let's not get the Moyes. The first year, that was a shit show for transfer window. Then we got rid of him, got in Van Gaal players. Half of them turned out to be duds. Sent him out, got in Mourinho style players. You're tall, big, just can defend and head the ball. Got rid of them. But I think recruitment has been the one thing that Ole has done sort of well, because he's got rid of most of the dead wood and he's gotten players that he can sort of trust and to deliver. And like you said, I think it's either manager or players. And in this case, Ole has had a pretty decent set of players to help him. Bruno, I think Bruno has been a standout for Ole. And I don't know if Odegaard is coming. I don't know whether he comes or not. But if he does, I think he could be that player.
I'll give you another parallel, right? So if you look at Nuno, right, at Wolves, he's always been on knocking on the door for top six, knocking on the door. But he never had that squad to really get him over the line. Now at Spurs, he's got that 2 or 3, maybe 4 good players, like world-class players, Champions League finalists, little bit that he can work with. And I won't be surprised if he finishes top 7, depending on how the other sides do. It's like that.
He's finishing top 6, whether Kane stays or not. Let's not.
Yeah, he'll still go with a game plan. We know how he's going to turn up week in, week out. With me, I'm sitting here putting the telly on every week, and I don't know who's going to play where. And suddenly he says, my players are ill. No, they're not ill. Other teams are trying to get them because you put them on 350k a week, and only the likes of a couple of clubs can buy them. Like, they were not ill. Like, that's any experienced fan will tell you. Like, they just had other matters to deal with for the weekend. I don't know what state of mind they're going to be in once they come back.
So I'm going to
what was Bournemouth's ex-manager's name? I forget.
Eddie Howe.
Eddie Howe.
Do you think he would be a good fit at Arsenal?
Not right now.
No.
Not right now. Okay, so I have a point to make. So there's Dan Carlin, who is like an American author and podcast guy. He has a podcast series called Blueprint for Armageddon, which is basically how the First World War began, right? That's kind of this was something I've discovered very recently. And when the guys did what they like, when Gavrilo Princip, that Serbian guy, went and shot the Archduke of Austria-Hungary, he had no clue he was setting into motion like the First World War. So if you take that into footballing context, this is what Arsenal technically right now have. And I'm sorry, this may be a little extreme, but this is basically a blueprint for relegation in 5 to 6 years. This is the exact path Newcastle United went down, if not like scarily accurate. Because I mean, they went from being entertainers because from the Wenger area, then they became the great entertainers under when he eventually switched playing styles. Now we're in a situation where last season there was a joke running around when they had that horrid run between November, they beat United at Old Trafford, and then went this horrid run to the Chelsea game. And everyone was joking around saying, oh, they're going to get relegated. If things stay the same, if the recruitment is more or less the same, if they continue to employ people from the top to the bottom, by which I mean the executives, starting with Josh Kroenke, who I think is running things at Arsenal, to the director of football, who is criminally on holiday during the crunch time of the season, and with no funds being made available for any sort of transfer window activity, there isn't going to be. You've started to notice the caliber of player Arsenal are starting to attract. If they are spunking 50 million on Ben White, who is right now their biggest transfer of the season, Lokonga, who I thought was very good against Brentford. When I saw the Arsenal team, I said, you know what, whatever happens today, this will be fun because this is a fresh young team. You have Balogun, who I rate. You
I
have
thought Balogun had a good game as well, personally.
Martinelli. I think he's just come back from the Olympics, so he's not quite up to it. Even though Richarlison also did come back and scored, but it's just that now you're in a time with you're at this weird time with the manager who has lost faith in his own playing style. Because right now it's like, okay, we're not going to let the other team concede. When he first came in, it was like, okay, we're going 3 at the back. We'll soak up pressure. He built them up almost to be like a mini Atletico Madrid, from what I know. And now it's just he's so scared to do things because it's very evident he's out of his depth. He's fallen out with 2 of his main strikers. One, Aubameyang, I honestly, when they gave him that new contract, I was of the opinion, and I still maintain that opinion, he should have been sold then. Because one, he was pushing 30. You put him on high wages, nobody's going to buy a 32-year-old striker. And it basically shafts anyone coming through or giving yourself, and moving him on also becomes a massive issue, right? So with regards to Arsenal, they find themselves in the perfect storm where everything could go bad because the next 2 fixtures are not very pretty either. They will win one of those 2 because it's just Arsenal, and that's what they do. I don't think that the Chelsea game is the result, but I think the City game is the result because City are not quite up there.
They did a double against Chelsea. They did a double against Chelsea this season.
I know, but you have Chelsea with Lukaku up front next game, and he has a point to prove, and it's going to be. Even though Lukaku is notoriously bad in big games, I feel he will show up in that game this weekend. I think this obviously can't continue much longer, and they need somebody who's the perfect manager for this situation. Has gone to Everton. I thought Benitez would have come on. Defensively, he would have made them a little bit stubborn. He would have pulled them to a 6th or a 7th place finish. A step on the road to recovery because what they currently have right now is not good enough. What I saw on Friday against Brentford is not good enough. Vishnu, go on.
Okay, let me ask Vishnu some questions, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Okay, let's go transfer wise. Are you happy with your transfer window?
It's less than a 5. I mean, big money doesn't mean players performing on the pitch, right? But I think the biggest positive for us
they're not that bad, I guess. But yeah.
No, but the biggest positive for me was Lokonga in the middle of the park. Like he was, even though we lost, he was great on the ball, did well in the tight spaces, brought the ball out well. He has that good. He switches wings really neatly. You know, he reminds me of like a Yaya-esque, maybe a poor man's Yaya-esque player. Like he's got those long legs, long strides. But the problem again is you need to have players around. Like you need to have players who can grab the young guys by the neck and say, we are in a real game here. Like there's no one to do that, right? There's no one to do that. You need to get in terms of transfers, I understand getting let's say even a David Luiz who left. But in the big games, he was actually the guy, even though everyone might make fun of him on social media and stuff like that. But he was the guy who caught everyone's neck and said, this is a game, boys. Like, this is no joke. We're in the crunch game Premier League. Like, we're not playing Sunday League here. You need to get better quality experienced players, I guess.
Yeah, I think like Luis had those leadership kind of roles that he would play. Like he would direct a defense around and stuff like that. You don't have anybody like that right now. And
the biggest reason we got Ben White is because he's similar mold, right? You give him 2-3 yards, he pings that long ball in. When there's a run, he pings it. But again, if you look at the biggest weakness he had in the game against Brentford, he can't hit the ball in certain angles. When the ball's behind him and he's on the blind side, that's when he's the weakest. If you just put Ben White highlights against Brentford, blind side, he can't hit it. Chelsea are just going to come, Lukaku blind side. I won't be surprised if he scores a couple of headers in the weekend.
Okay. In terms of the team, what happened to your forwards like Oba and Lacazette?
I saw some reports after the game saying Koeman is in for the pair of them because they're only left with Braithwaite, who scored, I think, on the weekend his first goal in God knows how long for Barcelona. But see, PK's taken a big wage cut, so Barcelona in. They're going for the kill. They've got Depay in. Look what exactly what Koeman's doing. Like, you have an experienced manager there. You have PK, who's like a semi-assistant manager, even though they've lost the greatest player of all time. You see, there's some shape there. There's something brewing. Koeman's, is an established player in the past as well. He's no joke. Like, he's got tons and tons of experience. That's what I mean for Arsenal. Like, you need, even let's say a Koeman, even let's say a Martinez. Like, even he has more experience than Arteta. Like, it's.
I think,
But I mean,
I think Karthik just alluded there. I mean, I know he's taking the Mickey out of it, but I think he just wrote something like, putting the cone out for a genius doesn't make you a genius, something like that. I think somewhere.
Okay, Vishnu, best case scenario, where do you see Arsenal finishing? Best case.
Top half. 2 8th place finishes, realistically top half. Is he going to do any better? He's gone 2 decent cup runs, made the semi-final last year. I mean, he has the results show for themselves. So I think he's a cup manager. The results show that he's a cup manager. That's why I said earlier he's the 90s Arsenal, go on cup runs. But is that really what we want to be? Like, since we've
I mean, it's a start, right? It's a start.
Win something first, yeah.
But they won. I mean, he did.
He won as a manager. He won the FA Cup as a manager.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, okay, and then worst case, where do you see you guys finishing?
Worst case is maybe 10 to 13th. Worst case, if it all goes downhill.
Hey, one last question, Vishnu. Let's assume Oba and Laka have gone to Barcelona. Let's just assume that for now. And let's say there are no more new signings coming in. What would your ideal 11 be, and what formation would you play them in?
Firstly, I don't think they'll leave because there's not enough time to get in replacements, and I don't think.
Okay, let's assume one of the two leave.
I'll tell you the main reason why. Because firstly, even though everyone's taking pay cuts at Barcelona, according to the La Liga, what they put down in terms of the Super League rules and stuff like that against Barcelona, they can't afford the pair of them. They can't. They might afford. I won't be surprised if Lacazette goes, right? But I would prefer if Aubameyang goes and Lacazette stays, because Lacazette has been bright in preseason. Like, if you watch his preseason performances, he's not scored, but he's had decent games. Link up, he's good at the link up play. Like, Spurs game last season was a great example. Like, he scored that lucky goal, but his main thing is come in not too deep, link up the play, make those runs into the box, and then you have Gabby on the left, putting those balls in, and he cuts in. So I would see Pepe for the team that you asked, Pepe on the right, Laka if Oba leaves in the center, Martinelli on the left. Then you've got Leno. Another concern with Leno is there's no second keeper in place. That's the biggest concern. Leno gets injured. Boom, we're down to our 4th choice. We're apparently bidding Ramsdale, but any team Ramsdale's played for has got relegated. So
he's gone relegated.
I hope what you say is not going to happen.
This is bad juju.
The situation we're in, right?
But he's been played well, for Sheffield, even though they've been relegated.
Yeah, we tried our hand with that.
You don't want him.
But you know what happened there.
Yeah.
So
Ronaldo, what happened to him? Where's he gone?
I think he was on loan, if I'm not wrong.
He's gone on loan, is it?
Runarsson. I think he was on loan when he came.
He was on loan. They didn't buy him.
No, Runarsson is who they bought. Matt Ryan, they sold because reasons, or they didn't refuse to get him back for the season. And now Runarsson is number 2, which is horrible if Leno gets injured, and Leno has gotten injured in the past.
Yeah. And he again succumbed to pressure. Long throw, succumb to pressure. He's no good at him. He's not a keeper that imposes himself in the box where you need him to be, right?
Yeah.
He's not a keeper like that.
Oh.
Ajay Shetty actually has a good point. What about Saka? Where does he play?
Yeah, so Saka can play anywhere. He can play anywhere across the front 3, right?
But does he not
can play.
start for you? Does he not start for you?
Of course he
He
does.
starts. So you've got
Yeah.
options there between Saka and Smith Rowe, depending on which type of game you're playing in. But if you start from the back, it's going to be Leno. Gabriel is a big miss because I think he's injured. So the ideal back five would be Leno, Tierney, Gabriel, Ben White, and you've got who else? Forget the other back. Chambers, yeah. Again, Chambers is below average. He turns up, he doesn't turn up. You don't know what he's going to do every game week. No consistency there. And I think Partey is injured, so Lokonga in the middle of the park till Partey comes back in. And then you've got Smith Rowe, Saka, and then you've got the front. Depending on which game you're playing, you flip it around. But I think they should go back to a back three. I think with the type of players we have, go back to a back three and take those risks.
Right wing back. Who's your right wing back? Saka?
Bellerin.
No,
Saka plays left wing back.
Saka play left wing back most probably, I think.
So then Tierney plays right?
No, Tierney plays the third.
Yeah.
He plays in the 3, right? Is what I know. He plays in the 3.
He played left back yesterday.
Tierney, White and Chambers. Who do you play? Tierney, White
Gabriel.
And then your right wing back is Bellerin. So that's your 5.
No Bellerin there. I think Saka plays maybe there, or it depends.
So your 3 in midfield would be,
because Saka can play anywhere, right? Left, right, center. He's good for all positions. That's why everyone loves
you
it.
don't play your club captain.
That's assuming if he leaves.
I mean,
and then you've got Xhaka, obviously, but
oh yeah, they gave Xhaka.
He's back. He's club
contract.
captain again. Aubameyang's not a captain anymore.
I never understood that Xhaka thing where I think they were trying to sell him, and then he wasn't getting
Roma,
sold, so they gave him another contract.
Yeah.
They gave him a contract with higher wages. So it's like, wait,
I was making this point earlier about Xhaka, right? Like if you watch the Euros and with Switzerland, he was that penalty shootout that they won, right? You see, he was barking orders. He was there in the middle of the huddle, he was like there. He knew taking control of the situation right there and then. He showed his personality when it was needed. I don't understand why he doesn't do it in the red and white. Like it baffles me.
We have a
It
player.
really baffles me why he can't be that consistent.
But that's because he's like, dude, this is the only place I'll reach a semi-final. You fuckers better go perform. You think at Arsenal I'm going to reach a semi-final? No, I have to do it here.
They did last season. They lost on Europa League last season.
They went to Villarreal, right? But no Coca-Cola. That's the only thing I can fathom. There were no bottles of Coke lying around which he was like gulping in one shot. But
we have a player who plays for his international team but does not show up for his club team.
Okay, I think that's a good way to
for the first game of the week.
Yeah, let's
okay. Just one last question to Vishnu. If you could finish 7th, that Conference League spot, would you want it? Or would you rather finish 8th or 6th?
Last season, I don't want it this season. I didn't want it last season. I don't want it this season.
I think the
reason if he can't get his team ready with 1 week of preparation, like most of the clubs in the league do, this is his golden chance. Like top level manager, not very often gets 1 week for an entire season to prepare your side and build a philosophy over the course of 8-10 months. Like this is his biggest chance. Like if he, like the way I see it with the tricky fixtures that most clubs have got this season, the 8-10 games, he's going to be under big pressure after 10 games. And if he's not gone by the 15th game, by the way they started, assuming they don't improve, he's gone. That's realistic. He's gone.
Okay, but from a personal standpoint, do you still want him?
Of course, he's an Arsenal man. He's a former player. Who's a City fan here?
Okay, but how many games for Arteta out? How many game losses for Arteta out?
With me, I give every manager half the season. 19 games is what you got. I know after the 19 game is a busy fixture list, but you got to give any manager like half a season. Even after all the time he's had. And he gets in 19 games, he's won us a cup.
Okay. So in 19 games, how many losses would be like Arteta out?
Less than 7?
Yeah, I think if you have 7 losses in 19 games, that you definitely have to like you as a club you can have about 7 to 8 losses in a season.
If Palace had 7 losses in 19 games, they're shipping out Vieira.
Which is
that's a different debate.
No, I'm
Which
I
is
mean,
interesting.
No, but
that's
I'm-
relegation battle.
That's relegation form. That's why I'm saying, like, and I'm not limiting to Palace. I'm just saying any other team would probably be shipping their manager out.
But again, with Palace, you see again the point I made
Except
earlier.
Newcastle.
After having Roy Hodgson, the most experienced manager in the league until he retired last season, they've gone in for a semi-rookie. He got sacked at Nice. He went to America, and he's always had that cushy period with being part of the City group because he knows he's not going to get
Yeah.
sacked in America, is he?
Yeah.
Right?
No,
he's
he's
not
not.
had real pressure. The only real pressure he's had at Nice, and he's got sacked. So that's why Palace
No,
also they should have probably got a more experienced guy in just to shore up things. Just to
We've
keep them in the league.
predicted Palace to get relegated this season, so we know it's coming unless of course unless they realize this early on, because it will get bad for Palace. I assume it's going to get very bad soon, and if they stop the rot there, then they will survive. But if they continue with Vieira through the season, or if they sack him too late, I don't think they survive. They don't have the squad for it. I think they signed Victor Anderson, who I rate. He was at Fulham last year, and then I think he went back to Rennes. I'm not quite sure where, but he's now one of their starting centre backs. Benteke, Zaha. They've
Too
got
many players there who've been for far too long at the club. Right?
Exactly,
Too many
yeah,
players
it's
there
like-
who've been there for far too long, and after a point you see these players they're not in it.
They've reached a
It's a
saturation
situation
point,
like
I
that.
think.
Yeah.
Hey,
So let's- I think,
one more question, dude. What happens to Arsenal when African Cup of Nations happens? Assuming Aubameyang and all are staying.
Pepe goes. No, Pepe
Pepe
goes.
goes.
Yeah.
Pepe goes.
That's not
Oba
how it
goes.
goes.
Yeah.
The
Look,
only
Actually-
Congo goal.
Actually, what happens to Liverpool when African Cup of Nations happens there?
Only Salah and Mane go. I mean,
Salah and Mane.
everyone else.
Which
That only is the
no,
team.
no,
right?
It's not the first time. No. But I mean, I think it's a good point.
Last one. The only bright spark from
Yeah.
Africa is if Dangote buys Arsenal, the richest man in Africa.
Oh,
Only guy
speaking-
from Africa who can save us.
The
Speaking-
president
speaking
of
of
Rwanda. Speaking of Africa, the president of Rwanda is ranting on Twitter about Arsenal at this point.
Hey, but that Spotify guy really tried.
Daniel, like,
No good.
Yeah,
No good.
as
I
Kroenke
personally
said.
didn't want him. No experience.
yeah. Also,
No.
if you know how Spotify is run, and if you know how
Yeah.
they treat their artists, trust me, you don't want to go anywhere near it.
It'll be worse than
like, that's a
Kroenke.
deal.
Okay, but-
Kroenke got most of his money from his wife.
Okay, but this is the thing about the Kroenke
Wow.
guy, right? He moved some football team to LA. Okay,
From
for
St.
which he's
Rams.
getting LA Rams, right? For which he's getting
Yeah.
sued left, right, and
Lose.
center. So if those lawsuits go through, he might be broke, which might lead him to sell Arsenal, which might lead to your revival, dude. So
He's-
here's
I
hoping
think
for you guys.
He's not
Listen.
like
That
these type of
lawsuit.
people don't
That
run out of money.
lawsuit is. Listen. That lawsuit is. He's not going to lose. Let me put it this way, because I follow the NFL. That lawsuit is not going to hold good in any court. Okay, in any sports arbitration. None of that shit.
Have you seen the stadium? Holy fuck!
Okay. Doge, let me tell you, there are teams have moved left, right, and center in the US. It really doesn't matter.
But he broke like 1 million contracts
No, he
to his
did not.
previous city.
He did not break any contracts. The only thing they were pissed off was they were not given the sufficient amount of time. He announced it this year and he left the year after.
Okay.
Okay, so that was one reason they were pissed off. He was in St. Louis, Missouri, and I think, and then he moved to LA.
Correct.
And the reason was LA. The LA government said we'll pay for half the stadium you're building. Just type LA Rams Stadium. That stadium is out of this bloody
Amazing.
world. Okay,
5
It's like a
billion.
spaceship.
Yeah.
exactly. It's costing
Yeah.
them $5 billion to build that stadium. I mean, okay, fine. It's shared by 2 teams. That's beside the point. So they
But
both sort of
it's-
share the
yeah.
costs. So the Chargers and the Rams, they sort of share the cost for that stadium. But still, he had to pay $2.5 billion from his own pocket.
But I think if you look at American
Oh, wow.
sport, it works differently, right? Like you see a lot of teams moving to like Las Vegas, and it's more of like a geography, location kind of a thing where revenue is affected by
Yes, the
where they're
revenue,
located in the country because it's so large and stuff like that.
But that's the thing, right? They have to go to these bigger sporting cities. They can't, because they're not going to generate revenue from the smaller sports hubs
Yeah,
like
like
St.
like
Louis.
how
They're not going
Spurs
to
have that
really.
NFL double pitch, right? It's attracting like foreigners and
Yeah.
like tourists who are coming into London, which is a big hub for everything, right? And in the US, like it's so large that they look at it that way, I guess. I don't watch much American sport, but I guess it's a geographical kind of a thing, like
Yeah, it's
in
like
terms of
Karthik said, right?
generating revenue.
It's small market teams and big market teams. Like, for example, Norwich is the only team from the east of England, and they're a small market team. It's the same with, like, what do you say,
The-
Brentford, because that's the only team that comes out of that city. So, and Leeds, that's the
But
only
isn't
team that comes
Brentford
out.
essentially an extension
It's
of
West
London, or
London.
is it West
It's
yeah,
London,
a
right?
socialist
Okay,
area called
I
It's
won't
in
say.
Ealing.
Okay, I won't say
Chiswick.
Brentford.
it's
Okay,
like
Leeds.
London's Yalanka, dude.
Okay, okay.
Wow.
Wow.
You
Yalanka or
bastard.
Newtown or Old Town?
I don't know, dude. Near
Then, okay,
Jakkur.
fine. How about Leeds? They're the only team from Yorkshire.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
That they've got that whole
Leeds are,
region.
So they've got the
yeah,
entire region. But
Yeah.
that's still like a small market team, because your big market teams are in your Manchesters, your Liverpools, you're in London. But again, like, having said that, the NFL is the only league where every team makes a profit. Every single team makes a profit from all of their revenue combined. You can't say the same about EPL teams.
That's because
yeah,
So
because
they're
again
You
running
they have
can't say that
salary
about
caps
football.
and
they're,
all
Yeah.
sorts of those
yeah, you can't
other.
say that
You
about
you
football as
can't say
well.
that about football. It's not sustainable, dude. Yeah.
So
okay.
exactly.
Speaking, I mean, for the interest of time, speaking of the Americans, let's move on to another set of American owners. Man United played Leeds earlier this weekend. I'm gonna sneeze. I had to sneeze there. But yeah, I was out for the weekend, so I didn't quite catch it, but my notifications were popping up.
Yeah, same here.
I expected the game to have been a tight one. What I saw at the end of that game was insane, and but also not entirely surprising, because once and Leeds do this. Leeds are a very exciting team to watch. They are um, super fun. They will keep going to the very end. All that jazz. They are also the best team for Manchester United to play, because they play exactly into their strengths, which is they get caught in the transition and they get absolutely belted on the counter attack. I think at this point, United haven't really had a great season, by which I mean Man United haven't had a great preseason. But a few of the players still coming back. I thought Leeds would probably be the more fitter of the two. But from what I saw of the game, and I watched the game back, the amount of space, I think Robin Koch, who Leeds, who took Captain Phillips' place in the starting lineup, was at fault for several of the goals, because he completely left Pogba to do his own thing in the center of the pitch or on the left-hand side of the pitch. As soon as Pogba got the ball, quick release, go. Bruno, my favorite goal of the game, the Greenwood goal, which was beautiful. As wonderful as the pass was, the finish from that angle. If there's one person in the world you bet to who would make that shot, it's him. And then when Fred got in on the act, you knew that these guys had probably given up. And a great start to the season. I would say it flatters United because it's Leeds being Leeds. We'll only know how they are against, even I wouldn't say Southampton either, because Southampton are more or less of the same breed. Maybe when United reach a team that puts itself into a low block, that's when we'll see as to how much the team has really improved. But obviously, great if you're a United fan. Bruno Hattrick, 4 assists from Paul Pogba, Fred scoring, Greenwood scoring. It can't really get better than that to start a season off. And also, to cap it all off, rather to set things in motion, you bring on Rafael Varane, announce him before the game, bring him onto the pitch to 75% to a full stadium. For the first time, fans are back at Old Trafford after like 18 months. He then gets to go see Rio Ferdinand, his idol growing up as a child, who's on the touchlines doing work for BT. He'll probably be walking on air for the next couple of days. That's a wonder. Like I, as a spectator, was so happy with what I was seeing. But yeah, good start. I'd love opinions as to what you thought of the game and what this could possibly mean for United. Does this mean they can mount a real challenge? I don't think they will this season anyway. But do you think they just opinions? Let's just get the ball rolling on this.
So I watched only the first half as I was out for the weekend as well. But after seeing the first half, I thought maybe we'll just be able to like just scrape through a victory and maybe like just a 1-0 going into the half. That's it. But my notifications kept popping up, goal, 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 and I was so happy to see that. And I think I alluded this from my FPL point of view as well, that there might be a repeat of last season 6-1, and we pretty much did see that happen, right?
Yeah, kind of same 4-goal difference.
Last season was 6-2, but honestly, I don't know. For the life of me, I really thought like it. I don't know why I didn't captain Bruno, but it didn't really matter at the end of the day because Leeds are such a inviting fixture for United only because of the way they set up. I mean, they just set up to play one-on-one all across the park. There's no way. There's at no times does Leeds ever double up on any player. The one-on-one through the entirety of defense and midfield, which plays so perfectly into United's hand, and the fact that Cork was just so out of position. And the funny part was, I know they started as a 4-2-3-1 with Pogba playing left, but at one point in the game, Pogba came into midfield. Greenwood went out and Bruno was playing as a false nine because I watched the game in entirety, and when Bruno started playing that false nine, that's when United scored those goals because Greenwood was out on the left, Dan James was doing his thing on the right, and he just dropped into the false nine. So at that point, Cork didn't know what to do. He kept leaving them to his centre backs. The centre backs kept leaving them to Cork. And that's when he got his. That's when Greenwood got his goal from that beautiful ball from Pogba, and then the long ball from Lindelof that he again ran off Cork and ran off the centre backs. And then after that, at that point, I think at 4-1 Leeds had given up, and then Fred just showed up at the party. And I think the last point to add to that, I think Sancho making his Premier League debut.
That was quite a special moment for him.
Yeah, that was a nice.
And for any of the fans as well. But I think Leeds were missing out on
you know what's
Phillips
the surprising thing? Surprising thing about Sancho, he grew up as a blue, but he made his Premier League debut as on the red side of Manchester.
Yep.
They had that funny poster in response to when Tevez moved to the blue side. And so they did the same thing with Sancho at the same place, I think. That was quite funny.
Yeah.
But I guess it didn't have the same impact yet.
They did.
I haven't seen this.
It was quite funny.
Yeah.
No, okay.
But I got a quick question. In terms of, the key thing with United last season was the stellar away record, right?
Yeah.
It drove the season, which surprised everyone, which surprised most ardent of United fans, right? Now, with the crowd coming back, I want to know from United fans whether it's going to be the same or if the crowd is going to have big changes, because we saw it. I thought the biggest factor in the opening weekend was the return of the crowds. That atmosphere at Spurs was just electric when they came out that stadium. First day of the season, buzzing. I personally think it's going to have an effect on United's away form.
I think Vishnu. I think this season, it switches back, and
to how it used to be.
I think it goes back to home advantage becomes a really big thing.
Yeah, Stretford End, I mean, is the biggest. Like, you got
I'm
the
not-
fights happening before the Leeds game. You got that killer instinct coming back from the United fans.
I'm not even saying the United. I'm just saying I'm saying throughout the
Across the
board,
board,
like
yeah.
across the board. I just think that it's going to be home advantage is now going to be a thing. And I
Yeah,
don't see United going on this unbeaten away run. I don't see them
but that's
doing
why I
that.
asked, like, because that I think that was key last season for
But
how
but
well
also
United
our
finished
home
and
form
how
was
far they
pathetic.
went in terms of
But
challenging.
also our home form was pathetic last season. Let's not
Like, you had
shy
to change
away
the
from
color of
that
the
fact.
hoardings and all those excuses were going on. Like,
Yeah,
no
so the
snacks
players
in the wall
couldn't.
or
Yeah,
That
all
was
that
yeah.
kind of
that was
nonsense.
shit, man. That was all, yeah. But I think the story flips this season. I think this season will be really good at home. I'm not saying we'll go undefeated. Maybe we'll lose an odd match here or there. But I think this season, I think 19 games at home, we probably win 17, maybe lose one, draw one, or something like that. And I think our home form is probably going to help us. I'm not saying win the title, but we'll be there or thereabouts come the end of the season. And that will be on the back of the home form, not the away form.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, definitely. The crowd back and Ole's away record at stake. Like, it's going to be interesting to see if he can carry that momentum away.
I want to hear Abhin's reverse psychology thoughts on this.
On what? On the away form?
Or the home form for the season.
No, I mean, honestly, the away form is not going to sustain. One, because it is unsustainable. You can't possibly have an away form where they're going to lose a game on the road at some point, which is you make your peace with it.
Why, dude? Why have one fortress when you can have whatever 17,
19
whatever?
19 photos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's also, see, United don't go. I mean, prime example was Sheffield United 2 years ago, where they were 2-0 down. They brought it back to 2-0, 2-2, then they went 3-2. Then the home crowd got up for it, and then they conceded in the 94th minute. I don't see it happening as much because they have, if they play Varane instead of Lindelof, that automatically takes care of itself. I think defensively they will be better this season. I think Wan-Bissaka is getting better. I think Diego Dalot's inclusion, or rather the fact that he stayed, will help that defense because it gives you an option of a more attacking fullback as opposed to a more defensive fullback. I mean, Dalot is maybe not as good defensively, but attacking wise, he's much better than Wan-Bissaka. What I see United getting found out a little bit is, again, the striker department, because one, I don't trust Tony Martial anymore. I did for a while, and then it's just gone to a point where make or break season. If you do it this season, well and good. If you don't let the door hit you on the way out, because it's about time. How much longer can you keep pushing the narrative that he's going to come good?
Blessing in disguise for him, though, with the Rashford injury.
Yeah, basically, because that kind of gave a new lease of life. I think actively the club have been trying to push him out. I think the Rashford injury was the one thing that kept him in the club. And if they would have tried to raise funds for a new striker if he'd gone. Cavani, I really enjoy, but he's not going to stay fit for the entire season. He's 34. Love his movement. I would love a younger version of that player, to be perfectly honest. I think if you had someone in the 25, 26-year-old bracket who was like Edison Cavani, I would bite your hand off for a player like that. But I don't think that player exists. There is a player in Erling Haaland who you can get for 75 million next year. It will be interesting to see how that works out. Given the current, if Harry Kane goes to City. If Harry Kane goes to City, then the dominoes will all fall in place for the Haaland transfer to United. There's a very interesting team here, but I don't think they have enough to challenge for the title because of two positions. One, the number 6, which keeps forcing us to play Fred and McTominay. Fred and McTominay work in games where teams attack you, which is your Leeds, your Man Cities. Expect Fred to have a blazing game against City this season.
Honestly,
he always
I
comes
think-
big through for the bigger games.
I know you guys didn't watch the game. I watched the game. I thought McTominay was a beast.
Yeah,
I think he's a good CDM.
Honestly, you know what?
CM.
I think with McTominay sitting and you let Fred, you let Bruno and Pogba just play, and you get an out and out striker.
But McTominay can't play the 6 by himself. He needs.
Trust me. I think he can. It's just that I don't know if Ole has enough faith
Dude, Yeah.
in McTominay
I
playing.
actually think McFred will work. I think McFred works.
Yes, it works, but McFred is not going to win you the league. Let's face
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
Okay.
McFred is
So
not
so
going to win
that
you
is
the
so
league.
completely
so
true.
so what I think is United are the team that will keep Man City and Chelsea on their heels. Like if one of those two guys slip up, United comes up either first. I mean, maybe not first, but at least second. Uh,
Yeah, I
I
think
think
United just want
in
to
this,
keep those two honest the entire season. That's it.
yeah, they're the guys who keep them in check. I think
Yeah.
this season, if Ole doesn't do substitutions, no, then he
Right.
shouldn't be a manager. Because I mean, last season I know you guys didn't have bench strength. Like that poor guy Bruno played every game, and if you had to take him off, you had like Mata or someone, right? It's not
And Van
really
de Beek,
filling, yeah, or Van de Beek, who's
who
not
wasn't
really
ready.
filling the same. But
Yeah.
now you have Sancho. It'll be interesting to see once Rashford comes back. What do they do? Like where do they play him
Sancho
instead of
plays on the right.
Sancho?
He played right for Dortmund as well because Royce
Okay,
played on the left.
yeah. Uh,
So you
but
by
you're
my
right.
but my right my by my calculation he's probably going to play for whatever reason he's going to play McFred. It's like a symbiotic partnership. It's like one can't live without the other. Or God knows what the fuck
Yeah,
that's about.
Yeah.
it's like some
Yeah.
Voldemort Harry Potter nonsense. Neither can
Yeah,
live while the
And
other survives.
It's a love-hate
I think
relationship, maybe.
next season for
Put it
sure
that way.
Pogba goes. Like
yeah,
Pogba's not going to sign again,
on a
100%.
free,
Like
on a free.
yeah, I bet my money on it.
Yeah.
Like he goes. He's been subtly hinting through his brother, his manager, for like what 4 years now. I want to go. I want to
Honestly,
go. I want to go.
another quick point. Like, I think there's been consistency here where you say that United are not challenging this season serious challengers, but like we were talking about the overlap a while back, right, with Roy
Yeah.
Keane, Gary Neville, and
Roy Keane,
Carragher,
yeah.
right? And Carragher made a very interesting point with the two United counterparts sitting next to him. He said that United cannot complain about not spending money because they've probably spent big money on every position like City have.
Yeah, I
So
agree, yeah.
the thing again with United is the question is Ole going to get you over the line? Which in heart of hearts, he's probably not.
Honestly,
I think-
Vishnu, one point. He's been to what 4 semifinals and 1 finals, or is it 5 semifinals and 1 final?
I think
Something
4
like that.
semis
Yeah.
and 1
I
final.
think
Four
four
semis
semis
and
and
one
four semis
and
and
a
one.
final, right? He's been an eternal bridesmaid, but a part of that is because he didn't have key players in key positions. Let's not kid ourselves. Our team was not built. Okay, the Villarreal game was shit.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I agree with you when you said you don't have key players, but in terms
at
of
key
just
positions.
spend,
Like now that we have Sancho and Varane, there cannot be any more excuses. If
No,
we make
this
it-
is
still
this is
the
There is
season
one
shot in the
excuse I
middle of the
would.
park.
I see.
this is the season he has to win something. So I
he
mean, I
has
think
to
enough.
whether it be a League
It
Cup, an
doesn't-
FA Cup, whatever it is, he has to win something this season. I'm not
I
saying
don't
he's got-
expect. I don't expect this to be a league win because ultimately the best team wins the league, right? Like as in it's an
Look,
overall team
I-
game. Yeah.
I don't expect him to win the league. Neither do I expect him to win the Champions League. But he has to win one of the two cups. He has to. There's no excuses. Like he can't just go on a cup run and say I reached another finals and I lost to City. There's no more excuses. Okay, fine. He doesn't have a CDM, but against City, all you need is a McFred, and those two they show up against City.
So why is
every
Van der
bloody-
Beek not in the conversation with United fans? Right, he's been a quality player, and I feel like
Honestly, I'll tell you what. I've watched him play. Whenever he's got a chance, he's been pretty awful. Like,
Underwhelming. Yeah.
he's been
Yeah.
very. I just.
I mean,
thought,
But how
for me
often,
that
like,
swung.
I
That
didn't watch
swung
United
that point.
often. Sorry.
Mhm.
How often did Van der Beek? He didn't start at all, but how often
Look,
did he
he-
play with McTominay? Because I feel like if he plays with McTominay, in terms of balance in that midfield, is much better compared to Fred. Just in
No,
terms
the
of
thing is,
quality, I feel.
So what Fred does and what Van de Beek, for his bad luck, is a direct replacement for Fernandes. So he does what Bruno is doing. Unfortunately for him, Bruno is doing things the way Bruno is doing things.
Yeah.
I'll talk to you about from an FPL perspective. I didn't have Bruno in the squad because United are switching to a 4-3-3 this season, which meant Sancho on the right. And Bruno playing a little deeper. He scored a hat-trick opening day. That's just like it is the anomaly that continues to exist because he's just high percent. He's just high volume shots. He's always taking chances. And Van de Beek is a little more. He comes from the Ajax school of thought where he'll move things around a little more. He's the last season.
When you
I think he
sort of
dropped
cut
off.
that.
Yeah. I
But
think he's
Vishnu, to
dropped
your
off.
point, like to your
He
point,
got
right?
far.
Like to your point,
Hello?
Vishnu, until
Yeah.
Abid
Yeah.
comes on.
Oh, he's back.
The
He's
thing
back.
with Van de Beek, right? The thing with Van de Beek, he has these intricate passes, that one touch football. Let me get the ball, let me just one touch pass it to the closest guy I see, right? You can't do that, especially not in the Premier League. It has to be a lot faster, a lot quicker. He moves the ball sideways and backwards. There's no forward passes with Van de Beek. With Bruno, it's completely different. He's always looking at the runner. He's always looking forward. Whether it be deep in the midfield or it be it number 10, whatever he's playing, he's looking forward. He's looking towards the goal. And I think that is one thing that I noticed from Van der Beek that just doesn't cut it at United. I mean,
But I
in
just
this
hope
Okay,
for his sake, like he just gets more chances this season because I just like to see players like him play, not be wasted.
Yeah,
on the bench.
I completely
just
agree.
Like he needs
Yeah.
to be
Even
given
I agree with
a
you.
fair chance at least at the club, because
look,
like
you know what? If
But-
Pogba leaves, I think he takes Pogba's place, plain and simple.
I mean, we'll have to see that, but that's a discussion
that's
for
another
another day.
question.
So,
I mean, no one's got to that. Is Pogba going to leave like Kane this transfer window?
I don't. He's not leaving now
I
because
don't-
nobody's going to pay the wage.
Yeah, he's not.
No one's
he's
going
not
to pay
making
him. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
but I think we leave that for another day because of the interest of time. We're an hour and 30 minutes in, so let's quickly look to wrap this up. I want to spend some time on Chelsea because they look pretty formidable on this weekend. A great goal by Trevor Chalobah. It was lovely to see because you could tell he was overcome by emotion when he scored it. Marcus Alonso.
Dude, Marcus Alonso just pulls that shit out
At
of
this
his
point,
ass
you know-
randomly. Okay. It's the only way to put it.
Bro, listen, Dodds, whenever he started, he's either scored or assisted. I think he is somebody who gets stick for
No.
for literally
Of course,
doing
of
his
course.
job.
I'm saying this random free kick goal, he just pulls it out of his ass. Even I was just like, how did he score that one?
But do you think he's got that extra pressure now because of chillers in the team? Like I feel like he's always constantly going to be like, if I don't play well in one game, I'm off because the options on the
Yeah.
bench. Like the squad
Yeah,
is just
dude.
that good.
Chilwell and Euro winner Emerson in the team, dude. Same spot. So yeah, that's a lot of pressure on you.
Wait, you have 3 left backs in your club?
Yeah, we've been
Yeah.
trying to get rid of him. Dude, have you seen our bench? There's some 43 people on it, dude. Don't ask me. Dude, David Zappa Costa is still on our team sheet. Okay.
Are you serious? Really?
Wait, what?
Wow.
I thought you
What
stole
is he
him.
doing?
Yeah. Okay. There was dude. Victor Moses was there till last year. Like all this Conte era guys and all were still there. I don't know. Like we just loaned them all out to Conte because
Yeah.
Italy never buys players. They just be like loan deal with option to buy. That's just Italy's thing. I think we look pretty good this season. I don't know. Like I think we can. I think we definitely challenge for the title. But maybe I should start using Abin's reverse psychology. I know Tuchel's doing that. He's just like, yeah, top 4 is fine. Top 4 is fine. No pressure. No pressure. don't say title and all yet. All this. One Champions League last season. Just chill, calm down.
Yeah. I feel Chelsea win the title. I just feel they have the most complete team. They have one of the best strikers in the league coming through.
So Lukaku firing is very important. It's very vital.
Do you think Lukaku has an RVP season?
Yeah, I think he does.
I don't know what season he has. I don't know which Lukaku comes. I mean,
if you
the
get
United Lukaku comes, we're screwed.
Listen,
The Italian Lukaku
let me-
comes, good.
Yeah.
Listen, let me tell you one thing. In the United Lukaku in the first season killed it. Believe it or not. I think he scored 22 or 23 or
Yeah, he had 23 goals.
23 goals. Yeah, he scored 23 goals. So don't write him off. Like he really had a good season with United. The problem was when he went to Belgium, he put on weight for whatever reason. Like Roberto Martinez asked him to put
Yeah,
on
that.
weight.
And
No,
now
no,
he's
no. I
shredded
think he was
actually.
hanging out with Hazard, dude. That's why.
No, he came back to play as a target man, which is not his style of football. It's really weird.
Yeah,
And
that's
Mourinho tried to
not.
blame.
I don't know what he was trying to do there. Like,
But anyway, Conte, he went to Italy. Conte quickly said, "What the hell are you doing?" The dietitians also were like, "What the hell are you doing?" They put him on a diet. He cut all that weight, became the lean machine that he is now. Which is why I feel he's more of a threat, and I think defenders like starting with the Arsenal game, if he catches Ben White on the blind side, oh, that's not going to be a pretty watch. But okay,
He's
we're going to
off
wrap.
my FPL already. Didn't have to wait till
What,
the
Ben
end of
White?
the week.
Oh, okay. So that's a beautiful point to make because we'll quickly look at our
Yeah.
FPL teams. Vishnu, you're the guest. Take us off. How's it going?
I went with a different strategy because, as I said, I've only played it once, and I'm not an FPL guy. Like, as you've seen from my conversation also today with you guys, I'm more like football is different when you're not playing FPL. Like the way you follow it and the way you want results to
course.
go. Like FPL just sometimes just ruins that moment sometimes, because you're like, damn, like at the back of your head, you're like, man, that was a good one, but the FPL screwed this weekend. So I went with 2 million in the bank as balance, only because I want to see when Lukaku is going to come in and what happens with Kane.
Yeah.
And I went with a different strategy where my front three were Ings, Antonio, and the Leeds Bamford. My midfield was Salah. Obviously, you can't have an FPL team without Salah. Then I had Mahrez in, and then I went with my heart with Pepe, who completely ruined me. And then I had Greenwood because I feel personally this is like Greenwood's season. Like even Ole said, like he's come back a man after the summer. For me, like apart from that other youngster, I forget his name in United, I feel Greenwood is like a player I really like to watch just week in, week out, just to see players like him develop at the stage where he's at, right? I think hopefully he has a good season as well, just from his personal point of view. That was my midfield. Midfield already switched. Pepe's off 7.5. Pogba's in 7.5. So I still got 2 in the bank. And my back three was... So I'm still waiting on Lukaku. Yeah, so I transferred Pogba in this week.
Nice.
Removed Pepe for the coming week.
Yeah.
Oh,
and then I was joking about Ben White. I didn't have it.
You know what? You know why that's a good thing? Because you just saved 0.2 mil. Because Pepe is dropping in price and Pogba is increasing in price.
Yeah. So then my back three was basically Tierney, who's substituted now for Amate for the upcoming game week because I think Arsenal play Chelsea. And I had Target from Villa. And my other back was, I forget my last defender. And my keeper was Martinez. So I'm still playing the waiting game. Decent. Not decent. I mean, 72, 73 points is okay. It's an okay start.
At least you were above the average. So at least we can be happy about that. Yeah.
Okay, we'll speak to our game week leader so far, our resident stat man, who Akshay. Please take us through what worked for you, what didn't work for you, and we'll finish like out of all of you. I finished with me last because I have the most pain, but we'll we'll speak.
It was good, but it was bad as well. I finished with 109 points.
How was that working out?
Yeah, no, let me continue. So, no, this will baffle you all when I tell you. So
it's like the topper of the class complaining about his exam, dude.
So I started with
not 100.
So I started with Martinez as my goalkeeper, 2 points. I was like, okay, no worries at all. And then Amate, Tsimikas, Soufal, and TAA, Trent. All of them did good except the one man Soufal. And then I had Fernandes and Bruno with Greenwood as my midfield three. Captain.
You mean Salah with Bruno? Wait, you said Fernandes and Bruno. You had Bruno.
Oh, sorry. Fernandes and Salah and Greenwood as my midfield three. Salah captain, which I was okay with as well, as Sid had alluded earlier. And then up ahead, I had Antonio, Ings, and Wilson. So it was a pretty good week for me. But I had a pretty 12-pointer sitting on my bench with Benrahma. I don't know. I think I just missed putting him on instead of Sufal, and yeah, that was. Otherwise, I would have had a killer week. Almost, I
Didn't
think.
confirm the team at the last moment. Didn't confirm the team.
119. You would have had
Yeah, probably
119.
not. but it's still good enough. So I'm happy about the team and how I've played. Yeah.
Sid, we'll go to you next, and then we'll go to Tushar after that. We'll leave the
Very
pain for
sim-
the end.
Very similar team. I think I didn't have Simikas. I had Shaw. So I think that's the only difference. Did you have Greenwood, Akshay?
I did. I brought him on at
I,
the very
I
last
had
minute.
Greenwood. Who was my fourth midfielder? Who I don't remember who my fourth midfielder. Oh no, I played four at the back. I played 4-4-2. I think the
Yeah.
rest of the team was pretty similar. So I guess the difference was you had Amate who got you 6. I had Shaw and Sufal who got me 2 each. No, Sufal got me
And he had
1.
Dini as well.
I had
I'm just
Digne,
looking up at your
so
team. Yeah.
yeah, I had Digne. So I guess the rest of the team was very similar. I think that's why I just had 102. I think I had 102
Yeah,
points.
102.
My
Yeah.
missus had more than me, so it's a little bit pissing off. She had
Akshay, this
100.
comment is for you.
Yeah. As I said, with Benny
I
Rama
think
sitting on the
I think
bench.
I think I think the missus had Son because she was like, let's go with Son because he scored really well last season. I'm like, sure, you want Son, go for Son. And what the fuck? How? I mean, would you know it? He scored the only goal and got all 3 bonus points. So
Yep.
Dudes.
Oh, mine was just a big captaining error, dude. Like I should have captained. I captained Wilson at the end instead of Salah or Fernandes, and that was just stupid. But my
Unfortunate
team was
choice.
basically Edison, Doughty, Kufa, Simikas, Benrahma, Salah, Son, Fernandes, Tony, Ayu, and Wilson. Chilwell got taken out instead of Doughty. So if I had captained
Why?
literally any of my midfielders, I would have been 100 plus. But by mistake, I captained Wilson. I think I'd put Vardy or Kane or someone there, and I'd put the captain spot there, and I was like, I'll change it later, and then I didn't do it.
Yeah.
And then I just missed up.
Okay, we'll finish off with me, and then we'll finish off this episode. I had a strategy. I wanted my midfielders to all be playing striker positions, which they kind of are. So Salah plays as a striker. Greenwood plays as a striker. He drifts between the front 3. I had Son, who's playing as a striker. I had Bowen, who was basically playing as a second striker to Antonio.
Yeah.
And I had Torres, who is playing the striker role at Man City. And so when Torres gets that shot, I literally go, oh no, it's about to happen, and it just does not happen. So everybody except the people I had ended up, and I said I'm not going with Bruno because what could possibly go wrong against Leeds, right?
Yeah.
What could possibly go wrong? Bruno hauls 20 points, and I had Son in his place, who still got 12 anyway. So I was like, okay, not too bad. Did he get 12 or did he get a 9? I'm sorry.
You got 10, sorry.
you got 10.
He got 10 also. 10, yeah, okay.
Because he got the clean
So-
sheet as well. So
Well, yeah, huh.
Yeah.
So-
yeah.
I ended up on what, 94? No,
84.
84 points.
I have the team.
Which is
up here.
which is a good start, but I don't know how that compared to what it could have been. That's always the horrible
Akshay, how
part.
much did WSABM score?
Oh yeah, we should touch upon that as well.
Oh yeah, we have a Vishnu, we have a league, a team we built specifically for this podcast. I wonder how. Yeah.
So we scored 94 as a combined team.
You know
Are
what?
you fucking serious right now?
Yeah.
Listen, you know why? It was because of you, because you said Antonio is useless.
Oh yeah, Antonio.
Yeah.
Because
It
Yeah.
could have been
So-
better. He missed the pen.
yeah,
But he
but
scored-
it's the pen, and
He scored.
no, it was Sushek who scored the rebound, then he scored the third.
Yeah.
So
But
Yeah,
he
he
scored-
scored.
yeah,
He
he
scored.
scored some
And he
goals.
assisted. He
He
assisted
And
the
he
assisted
fourth
as
goal.
well.
Yeah.
So, but
Oh,
now
man,
we
Antonio.
know. But now we know Antonio's on pen, so he has to be in the team.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. I think on that note, we're at an hour and 43 minutes, if not 40. We could keep doing this forever, but we can't, obviously. So it's a it is.
Hey, listen, a big shout out to everybody like Karthik, Ajay.
Yeah, we've had a
John
very
Smith,
John Smith,
yeah,
Cosmo.
we've we've had a very interactive chat that's been going on. But more than anything else, I want to thank Vishnu, because I literally called him at 7:50 and said, "Hey, can you do this?" And he said, "Yeah, sure." We jumped on board absolute last minute. So thank you so much for coming on the pod. I know, and
No worries. Thanks for calling me.
Yeah, with 4 people who've never spoken to before.
Hey, no, but Vishnu, seriously, where will Arsenal finish?
I told you though, it's the hope that kills you with Arsenal, isn't it? It's the hope that kills you.
Oh God. Anyway, so I invite. So the one of the comments that's there, Rohit Pawar. I actually invited him. He's an Arsenal fan too, but he works nights, so I don't know if he saw the message. But he's there on the comment section, and that one's for you, Mr. Rabin. Always trust Salah on opening day.
I did. I didn't captain, so it's fine.
I would say always trust Bruno on your team.
No,
and I think
Salah captain.
You asked us on the chat as well, and I said I gave you like a double or triple thumbs up on that, and you still didn't listen to me. So yeah.
Unfortunately, but mistakes have been made, and I should learn from them. Thank you all for coming on the pod. Vishnu, once again, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for coming on.
Stay safe.
I'd love for you to come back on the pod. So just let me know whenever you're free. We'll make it work again.
No, let me know if you give me like a day's notice. It'd be great, because then I can plan.
Yeah, done, dude. Obviously done for sure.
Hey,
as well.
You know what? We'll invite you for the North London derby. So just keep your calendar.
If you want, I'll call a Spurs fan. I know one.
Oh, lovely.
That'd be perfect.
We would love that. Yeah.
He'd probably provide a good foil to the rest of the group.
Oh, good. Yeah.
All right, done.
Great.
Okay, that's us. Thank you all for coming. We shall see you soon. Take care.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers. Good night.
Bye-bye. Good night.
Bye.